Hey guys, it's Arali. Recently on Reddit, I put a post up about what kind of lore you guys want to see, and it was interesting because some of the answers, I didn't get too many answers, but some of the answers were about people wanting to see the history of the human gods. And I know there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about the human gods, but I still wanted to make a video about the human gods, and I have recently made a history of the Tengu video, and in that video I used the text from the wiki, which the wiki people do a great job, and I really enjoyed making that video. So I think I'm gonna do the same thing here because, again, making a script and everything is kind of hard when you already have such a great resource like the wiki. You know, these guys do like such a great job. So again, the text is taken from the wiki here. I'm gonna try to get some background footage. I know in the Tengu history video I didn't really use any video. I'm gonna try to do a little bit of video with ore maybe and stuff like that. We'll put some stuff in the background there. But yeah, and this is probably going to be a little bit of a longer video, but yeah, enjoy. Very little is known of the gods or their histories prior to their arrival in Tyria. At the time that they first arrived in Tyria, it is thought that there were 6 of them: Dwayna, Balthazar, Melandru, Lissa, Abaddon, and Doom. Melandru is the oldest of the gods, although Dwayna is usually depicted as their leader. The gods, in particular Dwayna, brought humanity with them to Tyria from elsewhere. In the Orient history scrolls, it is said that Dwayna brought with her those who would make this world a paradise, and that, as she had promised, Dwayna led her people to peace. This implies that humanity are her favorite people, that she had brought humanity to Tyria because of a promise that she made, and that wherever they came from, it was not peaceful. The fact that no record exists of these times may be attributable to Lissa, as it is said in the scrolls that Lissa brought with her the hope and beauty of humanity, while the other gods focused on building a Ra and beginning a new future. Lissa gave them joy and helped them forget the past. It is also not clearly known how the gods came to form the pantheon, what their relationship is to one another, and the degree to which they understand how their own power works. What is known generally dates to after their arrival on Tyria. Grenth is the first Tyrian-born god, being the son of Dwayna, an immortal sculptor, speculated to be Malcor, and with the help of his 7 reapers he defeated and replaced Doom as the god of darkness, ice, and death. However, Grenth was unable to vanquish Doom entirely, so he imprisoned Doom in the Hall of Judgment in the Underworld. Cormyr was once a human, the spear marshal of the Sunspear Order of Ilona, who rose to divinity after the fall of Abaddon. The gods have not revealed much to humanity regarding the nature of their cooperation. In the case of Cormyr, no indication is given that the gods' gift to her while she was still mortal, which enabled her to absorb Abaddon's divine powers once he was defeated and ousted, was discussed amongst themselves in advance. However, the gods apparently did know what their gift would do and were also apparently satisfied with the elevation of a mortal human to their pantheon, as well as the replacement of Abaddon, who had previously been the guardian of their secrets. The date at which the gods arrived in the world of Tyria is somewhat contentious, although it is known that they arrived sometime after the writing of the Tome of the Rubicon. Human legends say that the dragon Glyn was the first creature created by the gods, and Glyn told Destiny's Edge in 1320 AE that 3,000 years ago she was set on Tyria as a guardian of the world. The legends also say that the Forgotten were brought to Tyria in 1769 BE to help Glyn, and that humanity came later. However, it was later discovered that Glyn was a champion of the elder dragon Kralkatorrik, and that the Forgotten were present for the last dragon rise, which is believed by the Durman Priory to have been around 10,000 years ago. This is corroborated by the Mersat lore tablet. The earliest known mention of humanity on the northern continent is in 205 BE, although humans were known to have a presence in Cantha as early as 785 BE. The gods first stepped from the mist into Tyria at the Artesian Waters, a place of such power that they were drawn to it from across realities. Dwayna was the first to step forth, and it is said that Tyria was her choice. Next came the others: Balthazar, carrying the severed head of his father and flanked by his hounds Tamar and Tegan. He cleansed Ur and claimed Tyria for humanity, believing that the other races would be easy to defeat. Melandru, on the other hand, urged peace, but was ignored. Melandru terraformed Ur into a green and flowering expanse. Doom is not mentioned in any early Tyrian records, but is assumed to have been present and was known to have had a presence on Tyria before being usurped by Grenth. Together, the gods built a Ra and gathered artifacts of power from across Tyria to their city, including the Bloodstone and the Mystic Telescope. Abaddon designed a set of magically warded reliquaries in Siren's Landing, where the gods could keep their priceless and powerful artifacts, relics, and knowledge saved from thieves and defilers, with his reliquary as the centerpiece. At some point, the gods became aware of the existence of the hibernating elder dragons, who were tied to the magical balance of Tyria, and learned their names and spheres of influence. This information was documented in what would come to be known as the Scroll of the Five True Gods. For a time, the gods lived among the humans of Or. They had a working relationship with the leader of the humans, Doric. Doric was the first to kneel at Dwayna's feet, begging for an end to the wars that harmed his people. These events are dated 115 BE in the scriptures of Dwayna. He was later crowned as the first king of Tyria. Because the gods blinded most humans who looked upon them for too long, they chose a sculptor, Malcor, to make statues of each of them before retreating to Ra. Dwayna was the last of these, and Malcor drove himself mad with love for her, throwing himself to his death after she left. At some point during this period, Grenth was born to Dwayna, an immortal sculptor, making him the first god to be born of Tyria. Grenth, along with 7 mortals, defeated Doom in the ossuary of the Cathedral of Eternal Radiance. Grenth imprisoned Doom within the Hall of Judgment in the underworld, and took his place among the gods in a spot not far from where his father had fallen. According to an ancient Ascalonian legend and an Orient scroll, the gods formulated a magical ritual and gifted 3 holy artifacts needed to enact and reverse it: a magical crown, Balthazar's own sword Zohathan, and its twin Magdair, to the royal human lineage as protection against invasion. The artifacts, as well as the knowledge how to use them in the ritual, would eventually pass on to the Ascalonian line of human kings. For hundreds of years, Abaddon acted as a bridge between the mists and the world. Though each god had granted magic to humans in small amounts throughout the centuries, when the gods decided to truly spread magic to the world, Abaddon was the one who took on the task, giving unique magic to each group of creatures he deemed worthy. However, he gave magic out too freely, and the civilizations that received magic rose to prominence and began to wage wars on each other. When King Doric saw his people's plight, he journeyed to Ra and requested the gods to take back magic. Accepting his pleas, the gods split the Bloodstone, an immense repository of the world's magic, into 5 parts and cast them all around the world, separating and thereby reducing the capabilities of magic use. Abaddon was furious at this and strongly protested to the other gods, but his protests were not addressed. Given the events that occurred afterwards, Abaddon apparently left the company of the other 5 gods at this point, while still retaining his divine power and position, but he did not take any other independent action. One particular tribe of Abaddon worshippers, the Marganites, lived within the Crystal Sea and Unending Ocean. At that time, it was a beautiful and bountiful place, nestled between Tyria and Elona. They worshipped Abaddon exclusively, and upon hearing the news of the revocation of magic, they launched an attack on the Temple of the 6 Gods, a great place of worship on the northern shores of Elona. They slaughtered the priests of the other 5 gods, desecrated the altars, and defaced the statues and scriptures within that holy place. Meanwhile, the Marganites had turned their boats into towers and attempted to physically attain ascension to meet Dwayna, Balthazar, and Melandru, perhaps to appeal on behalf of their god Abaddon. While the gods were understandably furious, it was their mortal followers, the Forgotten, whose anger burnt the brightest. A mighty legion, the likes of which were not seen before, was gathered to quell Abaddon's insolent followers, and what followed was the largest naval battle ever seen in human history. The crude magics and technology of humanity was no match for that of the Forgotten, and in time, the great Marganite armada was annihilated, and Jadith desperately prayed to his god for deliverance. For a long time, there was silence. When Abaddon answered, however, the answer was clear. The waters beneath the Forgotten fleet began to bubble as large whirlpools formed. When the sky should have been filled with the light of dawn, it was torn apart by abyssal tempests, and a fierce and devouring darkness appeared from beneath the Forgotten fleet. No living being emerged from the endless darkness that came from beneath the waters, except for one. Jadith. He became the first champion of Abaddon, and the first of the Morganites to become transformed into a demonic being. Hate and anger had overcame Abaddon completely, and with a vengeful roar, he declared war upon the gods, vowing to turn Tyria into his domain and preside as its one true god. As the mightiest of the gods, the war initially went in Abaddon's favor. He created the Horde of Darkness and laid siege on the gates of heaven. However, he could not stand up against the combined strength of the 5 other gods. Abaddon was ultimately struck down, leaving a vast desert where there was once a sea. Unwilling or unable to destroy Abaddon, the gods imprisoned him in his realm, much like Doom's imprisonment by Grenth in the Hall of Judgment, along with a host of Morganite followers, with chains forged by Balthazar himself binding the fallen god. A force of forgotten wardens was sent to safeguard Abaddon's prison, and the spot where Abaddon fell became known as the Mouth of Torment. As the rebellious god fell, he pulled the Temple of the 6 Gods with him into his new prison. The city of Mora was established to maintain a vigil there, where the link between the world and the mists was weakest. Soon after, the gods left the world in an event that came to be known as the Exodus of the Gods, which marked the beginning of the timeline used by the Mavelian calendar. Imprisoned in the depths of the realm of torment, Abaddon slowly recovered his strength and plotted vengeance. Over the millennium after his imprisonment, he sent out demonic servants to subvert the mortal realm. One servant of Abaddon persuaded Shiro Tagachi to murder Emperor Engxian during the harvest ceremony in Cantha. Shiro's actions during that time led to his death, causing the Jade Wind. The Titans, sent under Abaddon's orders, acted as gods for the Char and gave them the capability to perform the ritual of the searing in Ascalon. When the Char were reaching Araz's gates, the disguised demon Razakel coerced Vizier Kilbron to use the dark magics of the Lost Scrolls, which caused a cataclysm that sunk Or. This all set the stage for Abaddon's plan to unleash Nightfall. Around this time, both Balthazar and Grenth faced challenges within their own realms. Balthazar was under attack by his half-brother Mingus, whereas Grenth faced the forces of Doom, who had been slowly accumulating enough power to break free of his chains. Through the aid of mortals, Mingus's forces were thwarted and Doom was eventually returned to his dormant state. Throughout the lifetime of the Khornan War Marshal Varish Asa, General Kayet, Varish's mentor and a secret worshipper of Abaddon, groomed the Elonian leader to fulfill an ancient prophecy known as Nightfall, whereby Abaddon would be returned to the mortal plane. In 1075 AE, this plan came to fruition, and Abaddon, with the help of Doom and Mingus, was almost successful. The prophecy was ultimately stopped by the Order of the Sun Spears and the Order of Whispers, who entered the realm of torment itself with a group of heroes to defeat Abaddon. But the power of a god could not be destroyed, only transferred into another vessel. In his final moments, Abaddon's power threatened to run out of control and bring about the world's destruction regardless. Using a power that had been granted to her by the Five, Spear Marshal Cormia absorbed the vestiges of Abaddon's power and in the process became the goddess of truth. One of the last remaining vestiges of Abaddon's power was his abiding hatred of dance, and dancing in front of Abaddon's statues throughout Tyria and the Desolation could severely injure or otherwise incapacitate the dancer. In the wake of Nightfall, remnants of Abaddon's tormented magic left the Amarganite's presence seeped into the Crystal Desert. Left alone, this magic would coalesce into tormented remnants over time. To cleanse the desolation of Abaddon's corruption, the Jinn gathered at Sand Jackal Run and took to reshaping this tainted sand into jackal-shaped constructs. The Jinn imbued their magic into runes taken from the bodies of tormented remnants to tame the tormented energies, and in turn, the jackals. These jackals were feral and hostile initially, and still sought to bring about Nightfall. Once tamed, it was said that the eyes of the jackals were all that remained of their Marganite forebears. Though the gods had left the world, they continued to maintain an interest in human affairs, occasionally blessing the world with their favor. This changed with Abaddon's death, however. Although Cormir had absorbed most of Abaddon's power, the surge of energy upended the balance of magic in Tyria and stirred the Elder Dragon Primordus from its slumber, beginning a new Dragon Rise cycle. The gods eventually came to the conclusion that there could be no victory in a war with the Elder Dragons, believing that even in the event that they succeeded, Tyria would be ripped apart in the fight. The cataclysmic outcome of their fight with Abaddon a millennium before was proof of what kind of outcome could be wrought when beings of such power collided. The gods decided that they would leave Tyria behind for good, all but one of them. Balthazar, as the god of conflict, refused to turn away from the fight and announced his intention to fight the Elder Dragons, with or without the other gods. He additionally vowed that he would punish the other gods for their cowardice. Before Balthazar could act, the gods imprisoned him and stripped him of his divine power, chaining him in the mists. There he would remain forever, powerless to carry out his plans. Oloko, a priest of Cormyr, received a vision from Cormyr in which it was revealed to him that the remaining gods left in search of a new world without threats like the Elder Dragons, that they could prepare for their faithful. So that was pretty much it for everything that we know about the gods. There's a lot of details for each god, and if you guys want me to, I can go into detail for each god and kind of talk about what they have done in the beginning of time and stuff. This is just like an overview of what the history of the gods is. Of course, shortly after where we kind of stop is pretty much where the whole story with Balthazar starts and stuff, with like Living World Season 3 and so on. But I didn't really want to go into that detail because you can just play through the story pretty much, and you know, they do a really good job of storytelling. I mean, the story can be kind of all over the place sometimes, especially in Season 3, I think. But overall, the story, they do a good job of explaining everything and so on. So, but I think this is where I'm going to stop. Now, if you guys want to hear about the individual gods and their different places in the world and what they were up to, because there's some details about some of the gods, what they have done. There's like a little legend that the Char have with Melandru, and I'm super interested in Melandru herself because I feel like there's a lot of details about Melandru that there is a story I feel like that really needs to be told about Melandru specifically. If you guys want to see that kind of video or more in detail about each god, just let me know and I'll definitely do that. But that's going to be it from me for today. I appreciate you guys watching, and if you guys enjoyed this, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.